Josh Kroenke says his job is to help make decisions without emotion. But is Denver ready to move on from Mr. Nugget? Today, we're exploring trade ideas for Aaron Gordon. Stay tuned to see if it's possible to get stronger while cutting out your heart. Welcome to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host, Will Jones. How are you doing today, Will?
It's, multiple weeks removed from the end of the Nuggets season. Now we're in the off season. So we're going to be talking about some of those things. We didn't get to talk about the press conference because they had it on Friday. They couldn't, of course, do it before we could stream last week, but excited to talk about it now. Poppin said he wanted us to make his day better and that the Nuggets are a downer. So shout out to you, Poppin. Have a good day.
Well, one of the best ways to do that, I think, is to reframe your expectations. Snoozer says, I hope you guys can fix Mr. Nugget's legs. I need to fix my own first. Yeah. We're not going into detail on the round 2 playoff series because they ended up being a lot less interesting than I thought they would. But before we get into like our main topics, Will, I was wondering if you had any thoughts on round 2 in the playoffs. 2 of the series are already done. 2 of them ended in sweeps, right? New York versus Philly and OKC versus the Lakers.
Hey, the Lakers didn't win. I know there was Johnny Keene, I think, was in chat asking about the Lakers' chances of winning it all, and I said 0. And I know Luka went out, but I still think even if Luka played, they wouldn't have won. But so LeBron's on LeBron watch.
Might not have gotten swept, but yeah.
Yeah, LeBron's on LeBron watch. I don't know. That series was whatever. I didn't care. Pistons, Cavs, really interesting. Like Pistons, I don't know. I didn't think they would win it all. I didn't even know if they would go to the finals, so I won't be shocked if they go out, but I know people really believed in them, and that's been interesting. The Knicks look pretty good. And then Wolves, Spurs is fun. Just like it's more competitive, but it looks like Spurs are going to win that series. So OKC Spurs, I'm kind of excited about, but
I hope OKC Spurs happens. So San Antonio is up 3-2 in that series right now. But, as a Nuggets fan who has rooted for a team that has been up 3-2 on the Minnesota Timberwolves, I say you can never really count this team out, apparently. So I am not going to over-index on that game. It is clear, though, from this series that San Antonio has like more ways to win. Like they can win a grimy close game, or they can kind of blow you out, which is what happened in games 5 and game 2. Whereas Minnesota has to really muck it out. Then again, like we've seen what Minnesota is capable of doing in the past, especially when they really lock down defensively. I just think offensively, they're really, really struggling against San Antonio because the Spurs are really not letting up defensively. On the last show, we talked about some of the issues that they were going to have against the Wolves defensively, how the Spurs were going to struggle defensively because of how good, at least in the first game, like Finch and the rest of the Wolves coaching staff were just like constantly putting Wemby into the action and forcing all of these much smaller guys on the Spurs to act as backline defense. And I just think the Spurs have done a good job of playing around with the cross matches that Wemby has in order to keep him close to the basket. Like it's the same. It's not a new problem, right? It's not like a Wemby specific thing. It is kind of a Spurs specific thing because they don't really have like great rim protection besides Wemby. They have like pretty good, but like when you've got a team as relentless as Minnesota, it's tough. But every team with like a great rim protector is gonna try to like do everything they can to keep them close to the basket, whether that's putting them on a big, putting them on a poor shooter, being really active with their scram switching, pre-switching, etc. Like all of that stuff. And I think that San Antonio has been very intentional about not letting what happened to them in game 1 happen again defensively, where you get completely shredded in that fourth quarter because you've got like Dylan Harper as the low man against Nas Reed, Julius Randle, or even like all of the Minnesota's full of guys that love to drive to the basket, Terrence Shannon Jr. and of course everybody else on that team. So I think that's going to have to continue. Like I was really worried, honestly, watching the last game, because it felt like in the first half, San Antonio was trying to like outshoot Minnesota, and then eventually they caught up. It's like, no, San Antonio has to win this series defensively. Obviously, that didn't end up being the case for game 5, because like I said, San Antonio has proven to be a little bit more resilient in like the finding different ways to win. And one of the ways to win is to shoot the shit out of the basketball. And so they've been able to do that. I'm just, not going to rely on that to be the case through the last 2 games of the series, potentially. So
it is annoying, though. I know Wemby was looking for his 3-point shot a little bit. And found it early in game, whatever the last game was, 5. So it has been interesting to watch, but it is mirroring the Nuggets in ways that I wish we could do, like making a 3. Anyone making a 3, and it would have been so much easier.
Yeah.
As the Spurs are showing. And obviously they can defend the Wolves better than we can. That's a given. But it sucks to see how, not that it's easy for them, but everything's kind of working in a way. I mean, the series is close, mostly because Wemby got ejected. But here we are. So hopefully we'll see more competitive basketball. I really want to see if the Spurs can actually take out OKC. That's like the only question I have left in the playoffs. Maybe can the Knicks do something against OKC as well? But yeah, anyway. Hopefully some good series to come.
Last question I have in the playoffs. That's a good way to frame it, because it's kind of like, even though you think you probably give this year's Knicks team a better chance than like prior iterations, you still would go into that series in the finals if it was the Thunder heavily favoring OKC. I would actually be curious if the Spurs made the finals, what the Knicks did with that.
Yeah.
Because those games are also electric, and I actually think that that's a much easier matchup for the Knicks. That could be a really interesting one as well. And I just want to give some credit to New York. I have more Knicks fans in my life than I realized. And they are like straight doomers about their team. Understandably, this is where we find common cause. But they're like more elated than they've ever been. And I want to give credit to the team for sort of acquitting themselves in a way in these playoffs that is commensurate of a team that you look at and you're like, okay, this team should win the conference. Now, OG Anunoby out with a hamstring strain in the middle of round 2. They're probably happy that this Cavs-Pistons series is going a little bit long. Maybe they're hoping the Pistons win game 6 so that it can go 7 and give them some extra time to try and get OG back. I do think that they will struggle against especially the Pistons without OG, both defensively and offensively. Like, I just don't think they have a good matchup for Cade if OG is not available. And that could be a problem because like Cade is just like random. He has these like random flash of efficiency games when there isn't a good matchup for him on the floor. We saw this against Orlando after Franz Wagner went out for sure. And that's a real problem because if Cade's efficient, that can carry Detroit's offense enough for their defense to hold you down and get them some wins. I think New York would probably much prefer to play Cleveland because they're probably an easier defense to deal with. Not probably, they are. They don't have the same like perimeter defensive talent, especially. Interesting thing that happened in the Pistons game yesterday against Cleveland, that was game 5, right? And Cleveland won it in Detroit. is JB Bickerstaff benches Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart at the end, like to close the game for Paul Reed, which was like, I was kind of, I only watched the second half of the game and I was kind of like, what is Paul Reed doing on the floor in the middle of a playoff game where they have centers? Because I've seen Paul Reed play in playoff games, like when he was Joel Embiid's backup and he was like the only other big on the team. But that's not the case for Detroit. So that was very curious to me. Apparently, Jalen Duren's really been struggling in this series, but I don't think that's the answer. Especially against a Cleveland team with so much perimeter talent, like Paul Reed's not going to be as effective as a like partner drop big, even when you've got Asar, Ron Holland, and who's their other like perimeter defender on Detroit who plays next to Cade? I've got all these positions. Well, they've been playing a lot of playing a lot of bench guys, like starter minutes, so it was a little different, but scrappy athletic team, but you see the offense also sputter out at the end. But I really think like defensively they could have still taken that game if not for, I mean, yeah, just some kind of, honestly, some heroics on both ends of the floor by James Harden, which was really interesting to see in such a late game in the second round. But those are my thoughts on the playoff series. On LeBron watch, I just wanted to make this comment. LeBron, like, I wouldn't be shocked if he retired, but I don't think LeBron's retiring. The reason I don't think that is because of something I'm pretty sure we talked about on the show, which was recent-ish, I think within the last month, LeBron was asked about the possibility of, going in on an expansion team, and he basically poo-pooed it like it's like that's done. That's not happening anymore. And that's really the only reason that I kind of had in my head as like the deadline, like the clock ticking on LeBron retiring. Now I think he might just go forever. And I'm going to be honest, Will, I would be surprised if he left LA this summer.
Me too.
Yeah.
There was a report that he would take maybe a minimum. I don't know if that would actually happen.
I don't think he'd take a minimum. He might take a pay cut. Like he's been willing to do that in the past if it was going to help their team. Yeah, and LeBron's not going without his farewell tour for sure, Dahlia. That's a really good point.
I would like to see him in Cleveland. On the Break Pod brings that up.
I wouldn't mind him staying in LA and taking up cap space to make it more difficult for them to give Peyton Watson an offer sheet. But we're going to talk about that too.
I don't know this dude's name. He was on First Take with Stephen A. Smith, and he was saying he thought LeBron was going to go to the Nuggets. This was an actual point brought up on ESPN on First Take, which I thought was funny.
Who was it?
Not this guy doesn't know any.
What did he look like?
Yeah. He had like glasses and.
Was it someone you've seen before?
No.
Oh, okay.
He must be some. I don't know. I don't ever watch First Take or ESPN, so I don't know any of these people. But I just thought that was funny. Like it just happened to be on. I was looking at it, and they brought up LeBron on the Nuggets. It was hilarious. I don't think it's going to happen. Would he take a minimum on like another contender?
Yeah, Nick brought it up on First Things First too. I don't think LeBron's going to go any. He might go to Cleveland, but I think he's staying in LA.
I always said to the idea of LeBron joining the Nuggets that it didn't make sense because we had Aaron Gordon, but maybe not anymore.
It's a good point. But I don't think that LeBron does that unless he knows he's retiring. And I don't think
he knows he's retiring.
Because he's not trying to like go, like he would do that as like this is my last year, like one last shot kind of thing. Because I don't think he wants to like move somewhere to try to chase a ring and then like go back somewhere else after that. I don't think he's trying to stay in Denver multiple years, if that makes sense. So I think if he was going to do it, it would be like a last ditch kind of thing.
Plus the Nuggets just showed that they aren't that close technically. So if he wants a ring and he's going to chase and go to another team, why would he come to the Nuggets? It's not going to happen. So yeah, when the report came out that he was going to sign a minimum, I was like, oh, he's just going to stay in the Lakers. Yeah. Maybe it might not be a minimum, but it could be
maybe like an MLE,
much lower number than you'd think he would get. And then
or just like lower number because the Lakers have cap space, so they can just negotiate down to something like more than Like, he could go down to 30 million, 35 million, 40 million, and it would still be a significant discount for LA. So,
Yeah. Well,
um, yeah.
all right, we have so much to cover in so
Yeah,
little
so much.
time.
Let's get to it. Please do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Really helps us out with the algorithm. Well, we've got quite a bit of sad news actually. In the
Mm-hmm.
NBA that came up in the last couple of days. First one we have to talk about Brandon Clarke of the Memphis Grizzlies passed away. I think it was 2 days ago now. Just 29 years old. Um they didn't report the cause of death because it's currently being investigated, but I mean, this is really
Mm.
sad. I've seen a lot of Grizzlies media and fans reacting quite well negatively to his passing because he was so well liked.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like pretty universally well liked among players, among fans, among the media. He was definitely one of those personalities that like left a very positive impression on people. I know he was definitely a favorite of friend of the show Matt Moore, who is a Grizzlies fan himself. Um, when I know when I first saw it, because I first saw it like in like a group chat, it was the Shams report. There was no like picture or anything like that, right? It was just Shams saying like Brandon Clarke of the Memphis Grizzlies has passed at 29 years old. And someone asked if it was fake, right? Because that's the age that we live in, and I couldn't believe it either for a couple minutes. But what was your kind of immediate reaction
Mm.
to this
I
news?
actually weirdly heard from friends about this before it was reported in the media, which was weird.
Oh,
Yeah, like I heard from like a friend of mine who's a Grizzlies fan that
mm.
this had happened, and I was like, I hope that's not true. Then I waited like an hour before I saw anything about it, um, and it ended up being true, which sucks. Um, yeah, he was. I also have friends who went to Gonzaga. If you live in Colorado, a lot of people end up going to Gonzaga. It's really weird. So he played on that team in college, and so my friends were sad about it, and seeing that happen, and yeah, it's just crazy. You just don't see players currently playing in the NBA pass away that often. It's very shocking. And then we had another one, a former player that same day, which we'll talk about too. So it's just, yeah, that's just really shitty.
Yeah, and just to you know kind of add a little bit to this, he was really involved in this Arise to Read organization that works to kind of promote early childhood literacy in Memphis. He was very active with that organization, so a lot of like volunteers and even like kids that are in that program were or I guess the families of the kids in that program were also posting about this, pretty devastated. Um, but it seems like maybe the Grizzlies and other his and Brandon's teammates might kind of use this moment as fuel to get involved in that a little bit more. And yeah, it was really tough because I was like, oh, Brandon Clarke, everybody likes Brandon. Like, what could have possibly happened? Um,
He got arrested not that long ago for like drug possession. It was like a month ago or
yes,
something.
that was like
So
I was like, oh, it's kind of like. And I was kind of like, ah, dang, these Memphis Grizzlies kind of corrupting everybody. Um, it's a really tough situation. And I wanted to first talk about, like it is very sad, like very young person, like let alone like a young athlete with like his whole like not his whole but like his whole career ahead of him basically. He's only 29. Pretty versatile player. Like he could have played for a very long time after this. Um, but I wanted to kind of elucidate a little bit about some of the like salary implications of this, not necessarily um specifically for Memphis, but like what this means for Brandon's family. Um, because it's currently being investigated, so they don't like it as a potential overdose. And usually Okay, I won't say that. If you want my like full unvarnished thoughts on this, you'll have to go on Twitter. But whether his death is caused by intentional or unintentional overdose, the remainder of his salary is can technically be forfeited to Memphis. So there's a lot of protections in the CBA for money, and including for death. But there are certain causes that have to do with participating in prohibited activities. In this case, drug, like banned drug use, that can actually void the rest of your contract from there. And so like the outcome of this investigation is going to really matter for his family's sake. It seems like I won't speculate, but if it was an overdose, whether intentional or not, that would present a question for the Memphis Grizzlies to answer. And they're not exactly like the most upstanding organization that I would trust to like do right by his family necessarily. So, for their sake, I hope that the Heat at least, saved, a lot of what he'd made, to this point. He didn't have a spouse or children that I, was aware of or able to find. But, there's, with all of these players, there's usually like extended family networks that are not necessarily dependent on the player, but, their lives are impacted financially by them. So I wanted to bring that up because I was seeing a lot of questions about that, either online or in the chats. So gross aspect of CBA stuff, but I'm the bearer of bad news. Okay. Second piece of terrible news actually is Jason Collins also passed. He's a former NBA player. He was only 47 years old. Died of brain cancer. Brain cancer. I believe it was a glioblastoma that he'd been dealing with for a few years now. He was the first openly gay active NBA player back when he played. And I know like I saw like a clip of like Richard Jefferson on a podcast from a couple months ago, kind of talking about like the fact that they were friends, and when Jason came out, and I don't remember if Richard was like making the joke. It's like, oh yeah, I knew, blah blah blah, or whatever, in his very Richard Jefferson way. But that, I need to talk about him because of like his sort of significance to kind of the landscape of the NBA right now. I don't think have had any active players come out since, and this was 13 years ago. I wanted to also kind of boost whatever with our tiny platform. The words of Charles Barkley over on the Inside the NBA show. They were talking about Jason Collins passing, and Chuck made the remarks, and I'll just read the full quote here. "We live in a homophobic society, and that's unfortunate. Anybody who think we ain't got a bunch of gay players in all sports, they're just stupid." And he kind of goes on to expound upon, like, in soccer, like we've had, especially in Europe, more players, professional players coming out. But he talks about football, hockey, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because this was in the context of who's not Chuck or Ernie or Shaq? Who's the
Kenny?
Kenny, yes, thank you. Kenny talking about how like, oh, what Jason Collins did was so significant because it like made things better or whatever. And then we talk about the fact that it's been 13 years and nobody else has come out since. And Chuck's kind of like, if you think that, that they're just not there, then you're kind of deluding yourself as to, the culture of homophobia across sports. And so wanted to share that out because kind of surprisingly how widespread the coverage of Jason Collins' passing was across NBA media, but it's because of his his significance as that first openly gay player who came out while he was still active in the NBA. Any thoughts on that one?
I love Chuck. He's always been on the right side of like gender and social issues, and I love that he says it. He's seen as like a kind of a, he's a comedian in the NBA space for the most part. He's not like a serious analytical figure, but he uses his popularity to talk about
Nuggets to win in 23.
Oh yeah, damn, he was so he often gets made fun of for jinxing teams, but in that case he was good.
Denver was strong enough to overcome it that year.
All right, Poppin says you were supposed to cheer me up, so that was the sad news. We should go to the exit interview because I don't know, maybe you'll have fun time talking some shit about Josh Kroenke in the front office. That's always fun. Fans always love that.
Yeah, just to wrap it up, 2 really sad passings, 1 active player, 1 former player. But hopefully some good can come of it from the kind of the dialogue arising out of both of these deaths. Perhaps we can stop overdosing on drugs. Overdose deaths are actually down, by the way, because of the widespread use of Narcan, because so many overdoses are of narcotics in particular. But anyway, we don't need to get into the politics of that. Let's talk about exit interviews. So last show, we talked about how the exit interviews were supposed to be 2 segments, 1 segment with Josh, Ben, and Jon. And the second half of that hour was going to be just with David Adelman. When I went back and rewatched the exit interviews again for Denver, they ended up being, a panel of all 4 men for 47 minutes. It was not an hour. I was just curious because it felt like watching the first time, like, man, Josh is getting a lot of the questions and he's talking a lot. And that's just kind of a function of Josh being there for like the full time. I was either being asked a question or answering a question for 55% of this exit interview that involved 4 people in kind of varying positions of leadership of the Denver Nuggets. David Adelman was next with 37% of the time. That was 17 and a half total minutes. And then Ben Tenzer and Jon Wallace, our co-executive our executive vice presidents, spoke for 8% of the were asked questions or answered questions for 8% of the exit interviews.
Yeah.
What did you think when they switched the format? What did you think kind of overall about what it meant for the types of questions, the types of answers that we were getting over the course of the exit interviews?
I was not surprised when the format was switched. They did that. When did they do that? Was it Calvin Booth and Malone and Kroenke at one point going into the season before they got fired? Yes, that was the
United Front exit interview after 2024.
We're united. And then it got way worse to the point where he had to fire both of them. Yeah. So I wasn't surprised that he did something like that, kind of shielding himself from having to take every question. Now he got the most questions, but, it's just inevitably going to be split up. So I don't know. It's predictable. I feel like I've seen Josh do before. So I was like, he's always going to do this. So it was kind of lame. I didn't love it, but
I was kind of like, look, the Ben and Jon getting sidelined thing was always going to happen. I wish that DA had his own dedicated segment because I think that we deserved to hear from just the coach for like a full, it's never actually 30 minutes, but like 20 to 25 minutes. And we didn't even really get that from DA because of the dynamic of like, and lots of media members have talked about this. I saw Brendan Vogt talking about it on DNVR immediately after exit interviews that like they only get to hear from Josh a couple times a year. So like when you have him, you want to ask him those questions. And so everybody gets pushed to the side a bit. I will say in terms of like answering questions, I thought Adelman did a good, like acquitted himself quite well of just kind of being as detailed and thorough as possible in how he was kind of going about things. We're going to talk about some of like what he learned from this year, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought he made the most of his time. I thought Ben and Jon were really just well fixtures in this one. Unfortunately, and that like that's it didn't help. This exit interview didn't help with the perception that those two in particular are just Josh's lackeys.
Yeah, it just further confirmed. Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. So that was just like a little bit of the bind numbers, but let's get into the big themes from the exit interviews. We were injured was a running theme throughout. Josh called it the season that never was. He referenced basketball being a rhythm game and said the team never had a chance to fully establish a rhythm, and that manifested in April. He talked about Nikola before and after the injury. He said, this team looks a lot different when Aaron Gordon is healthy. And we'll get to more on what Josh said about AG later. When asked about Minnesota's physicality and the diminishing returns of the Jamal Jokic two-man game, Josh said, quote, I wish we'd had a full roster. Like it was not, that wasn't like his entire answer, but that was like the core, that was how he started. And that was like, he's like, where I'm starting from is I wish we'd had a full roster. He talked about the regular season and how it's like, well, this was the best start in franchise history. And then the injury bugs started to bite. And again, in reference to Aaron Gordon, said, quote, what we ask him to do, it's very demanding on the human body. We have to help him get better at it. And then again, in reference to the regular season, quote, I thought if this group was healthy, it could have been a 60 to 65 win team. I actually don't disagree with that, by the way. With that last one. I don't disagree with most of the things that are stated here, but it's clear that like these were not just all part of one answer about how the injuries impacted the team. These were taken from throughout the entire exit interviews. They kind of permeated the all of Josh's answers about how he assesses where the team is at based on this season. So I think it exists, like all of these quotes kind of play as good counter evidence, not necessarily what's going to happen, but this is good counter evidence and what we'll be able to point to if they go through this summer and decide like we're going to essentially run it back, maybe with a tweak or two here and there. Again, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but it feels like at least the groundwork is being laid for this is why we did this, is because we were just injured last year. Like literally he called it the season that never was. That was one of his first quotes from the presser.
Yeah, it's like on the one hand, he's not wrong because injuries severely limited what we could do. But it definitely did feel like an excuse in some way.
An excuse to
saying?
At least,
like,
even if you think that the roster should stay mostly the same, even if you're a fan that thinks that. I think that there's not much that I disagree with on any of these injury quotes, by the way. Right. AG was healthy in game 2 and we lost. I guess he's saying like Peyton too. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. There's not much I disagree with in these injury quotes, by the way.
Right. But it was used a lot.
It felt like it was for Josh, it was a mask to not at least have to examine some of the weaknesses that were exposed by the injuries, like things that are always there, but you can overcome it if like everyone's healthy and clicking. Sure. But like, okay, if you wanted to take something away from this in terms of like areas where they can improve, especially like depth wise, because like look at Minnesota. They had hella injuries in that series, but they were able to overwhelm because of their athletic depth, like up and down the roster, for example. Even if you don't think that Denver's problem was athleticism, like if there like was what like you could talk about like, okay, we had the injuries, but what was it that the injuries exposed about, you know, what's further down the roster and what's missing there? I think that could have been a really interesting discussion, just to know, like, does Josh think this is just like the perfect roster when they're healthy? Like, just no roster is perfect. And I'm not even saying that you would necessarily address the things that he points out that are sort of missing, but it felt like there was an unwillingness at this point in time to share any sort of insight with respect to specific areas that the roster needs to improve.
Yeah. And that's like the kind of things you want to hear, his real honest opinions, but he can never give it because he's got to be reserved if he's going to be exploring trades and all that.
Share those things while being diplomatic. Like, just even if he'd said, well, like, maybe we could have used a little bit more speed, but blah, blah, blah. Like, you get a little bit of that with Peyton back, this, that, and the other. Like, there was not even talk about more specifically, because a lot of it was centered on Aaron Gordon's health. Yeah. There are things that the roster is missing when Aaron Gordon is healthy, as evidenced, right? What happened in game 2, right? But you could have talked about like what is missing, what specifically is missing when that guy is off the floor, to the point where you're like, maybe we need a little bit more redundancy in that function. Not even talking about things that the roster doesn't have, but doesn't have enough of. But there was none of that. And that was pretty frustrating. But I also think it's a function of like the wide range of sort of things that they needed to talk about in this presser. So that's not me. Hope that doesn't sound like me blaming the press corps, because I actually think people did a really good job of asking like really specific questions to try and pry answers out of Josh. And he was just like, I will say this was a much better presser than whatever the hell he did last year when he what was the worst one? Because he did like 3 in a very short span of time. There was the one. Did he do one before he hired DA, or did he wait until they hired DA to do that first one? Then he did one with Ben and John. And then, I think.
And then he did like an interview with Vic Lombardi.
After he fires Malone and Calvin. So there was that's 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I guess, a tougher situation because you fire GM and coach right before the playoffs. So he had to kind of explain all of that. And the organization had so many questions about leadership at that point.
I mean, but they kept getting worse, right? Because at some point, I think when he introduced Ben and John, it was when he got the questions about the second apron. And then he made the, like, we don't want to have to trade Jokic comments that were like totally unforced and like all of that. So they did keep getting worse as time went on last year. And I do think this was that, like, better than that. He didn't
because he didn't say anything where he's getting, maybe misquoted.
Right. Or nothing.
Or spun in a way that's like, we're going to do something monumentally stupid.
Right.
He's only getting kind of like, he didn't know.
We'll talk about some of the things that I can definitely hit him on, but that aren't as like salaciously worded, I should say.
Yeah, the only thing he was maybe diplomatic about that maybe gave insight is, and I don't even know if this is true or going to happen, is trading Aaron Gordon, which we're going to kind of talk about, because he kept talking about injuries and AG needs to be healthy. So that was only the thing that maybe there was some insight on a potential move, but nothing about moving Jamal. But that doesn't mean they're not exploring those things. I honestly do think they're going to
keeping Jamal. They said, we're going to talk about it, but like they said, everything but Nicole, the trading Nicole is is on the table. Not Nicole and Jamal or Nicola and Jamal are off the table.
Yeah. So, I think they're going to explore everything. I just don't know what we're really going to do. Like, I don't think they're stupid. I don't think Ben and John and Josh are stupid people, but I'm not sure what their priorities are. And that is the big question. So, let's talk about the luxury tax. Speaking of priorities.
Okay. So next important pieces of insight here. The comments about the luxury tax. So on this one was interesting because I only caught this on my third listen, which is why it was good that I listened to it one more time before the show. Josh made a comment about last year where he said, quote, part of what happened was understanding having 3 max players was not going to continue for us moving forward. And he was talking about kind of the constraints of the new CBA. And that was just like straight up part of we knew part of like the calculus was salary dump. Obviously, they happened to be able to spin it into a depth piece in Jonas, and then got Cam back in the MPJ trade. Right, this is what we're referencing when we talk about not having 3 max players. Snooze or Grace is actually the go for listening 3 times. I probably listened to it more because I watched a lot of clips as well as when it first came out. But gotta let it marinate. They said they didn't see a needle mover at the trade deadline, which was in reference to a question I believe it was from Brendan Vogt about the fact that they ducked the tax at the deadline instead of doing anything to improve. And he said they didn't see a needle mover. On going forward, Josh said, quote, everything is on the table, including running it back. That is, let's see, just going through. There's 2 comments in this list of quotes that actually go against the idea that they will duck the luxury tax this summer. And there is still a lot of evidence that they won't do it. Because honestly, up until they lost in the first round, I thought that's not a this summer thing, that's a next summer thing. But then they lost in the first round, and it's like, okay, now it becomes more of a question. But we'll talk about the math on it after I get through the rest of these quotes. So everything's on the table, including running it back. That goes against ducking the luxury tax because running it back would be prohibitively expensive, almost. Okay, and even it would be difficult to stay under the second apron, let alone the luxury tax, right? Quote, everything is on the table outside of trading Nikola, which is the opposite of everything's on the table, including running it back, except they are inclusive of each other because it's just maybes. It's like maybe this, maybe that. We don't know. Quote, and this was in reference to ducking the luxury tax and financial/business concerns rubbing up against trying to be the most competitive roster. I believe this was I think this was also a Brendan Vogt question. I thought Vogt asked a lot of good ones. But also, if this wasn't Vogt, I'm sorry for not giving you credit. But Josh
either
said,
him
quote,
or Jake Shapiro, but yeah.
Oh, Jake Shapiro asked some good ones too. Josh said, if we deem running it back to be the most competitive thing to do for the roster, then that's what we're going to do. Which is interesting because you kind of say that and then you can just be like, well, we'll see. The other comment that Josh made that was in reference to the talk about where the Kroenkes like to spend their money. He's like, the assessment of us, or something to that effect. He was kind of referencing what the Kroenkes are known for. The reputation is we like to pay for the talent on the floor. Now you can take that a couple of different ways. I do think the way that Josh meant that is to sort of plant the idea in the minds of reporters is like, okay, maybe we're not paying for a big fancy practice facility right now, but we will be willing to go deep into the tax in order to have a good roster. The other way that you could read that, if you were being, depending on how you see it, more realistic or let's say ungenerous, is, well, yeah, we'll pay the salaries, but we don't want to pay, for example, if you keeping Jonas is the equivalent of, because of the repeater tax aspect of being over the luxury tax now that Denver's been in it for so many years. It's not just his $10 million salary. It's actually a total cost of $37 million because if you're keeping him on top of everybody else, right? This is how, by the way, progressive taxation works, people. Just in the context of the NBA. The other thing that Josh said was, quote, I think the smartest teams can figure out ways to stay competitive while making those cutthroat decisions. I will say when Josh said this in terms of like the tone, because the question was again about like, oh, well, are you going to duck the tax? Are you going to, how do you make the team? I think this one was definitely vote, because the question was about whether you can still consider yourself a top tier contender. I mean, can you even think of it after this year? They're going out in round one, but can you consider yourself a top tier contender if you weaken the roster to save money? And Josh's answer, part of Josh's answer was, I think the smartest teams can figure out ways to stay competitive while making those cutthroat decisions. But it was like a but, blah, 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 blah. So I think he was sort of like protecting the idea of like, I'm not going to let you box me into cutting money automatically means you're weakening the roster. But I don't think that was the point of his answer. But
yeah,
I need to include that part because as a billionaire, future probably owner of this sports team at some point, if people ever expire, certain people,
the outright owner, yeah.
He's still got to protect philosophically the idea of just because I'm not spending, the money that you want me to doesn't mean the team, doesn't mean I don't want the team to succeed, kind of thing, which is like, I'm annoyed by that as a fan, but like you guys have to understand like how much these guys will fight philosophically on these questions of like these guys being like billionaire sports franchise owners, because they need the idea to be alive in the minds of like some people that like, I don't actually have to spend like this crazy money.
Also, I don't know if you have the, okay, we're going to talk about that later. I'll just say, I haven't seen a lot of cutthroat decisions from him, and I haven't seen smart decisions that have kept us competitive.
Sure. Yes. I think firing Malone and Calvin with games left to close the season.
I guess I'm just like thinking of the roster.
Yeah.
Because those are the salaries, and like,
treating Gary Harris for AG was pretty cutthroat just because of what he meant to the team, like emotionally. So that's one.
I guess. I just thought the writing on the wall with Gary was that he was not good anymore. Sorry.
Well, that's the thing. That's a cutthroat thing to like do / say.
Yeah.
Will like.
I guess. Yeah. True.
Another Mr. Nugget, by the way. And then the last quote we've got here is, whenever you have some of the players we have on this roster, you're in the window. It's just about nailing these margins. And this is in reference to like the idea of like, are you running it back or are you basically downsizing? Those are the options in front of them. Essentially running it back, maybe with like a couple of Edmonds or whatever, and going deep into the tax, or making major changes and probably ducking the tax in the process. Those are the two directions that I see Denver possibly going this summer, and there's not much compromise. What I'm seeing out of all of these comments in reference to the luxury tax is they don't know what they're going to do yet because they are leaving every possibility open.
I thought you were going to read this comment.
Oh, sorry. Prometheus Who said, when he said he's 1,000 times more upset than fans, that was ridiculous. I punched a wall in my wall. Josh, did you? I don't know. Maybe Josh did punch a hole in his wall. Do we know that?
Maybe he threw his cell phone.
Maybe he threw his cell phone at somebody's face and it missed, but he still did it.
Maybe he threw darts at his Calvin Booth dartboard.
Maybe he threw darts at his Tim Conley dartboard.
Yeah. God damn, ruining our franchise.
So that's, I mean, it's so many directions, right? Like you could probably pick out 3 or 4. Yeah, 3 like we're ducking the tax statements. 3 we're gonna run it back and pay for everybody statements, and 3 neutral statements out of everything I just said. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means they don't know what they're going to do. And here's the thing. Last year when they still didn't know what they were going to do, but they made very strong claims about how they were going to run it back and rely on development and this, that, and the other. And it was funny because DA was like not running with the development line. And I was like, guys, this is not what you're saying it was in terms of like people that were like, well, DA is going to be better for development than Malone, blah, 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 blah. And they essentially lied to us because then they traded MPJ. And we know that like that they were looking to do that, because if you weren't looking to do that, you don't trade your 2032 first. Like they were trying to get under the luxury tax, or at least get close enough to it that they could duck it at the deadline. This year, they are leaving open all the possibilities so that we are not surprised with whatever happens next, which is very different than the posture that they took last year. That's something that feels pretty notable to me. Last year, let's say they didn't know that I don't believe they didn't know that they were going to trade MPJ. I think they were just trying to find like somebody, like a buyer that was like willing to take on a very valuable future first round pick. For like a decent player. And in this case, it was Cam Johnson. And they lied to us. But this year, they're like, we're not lying. These are all the possibilities. Like this is the realm of possibilities, and it could be any of these things. So don't act surprised when we do everything or nothing. What do you think about that like difference in strategy in terms of like just PR between last year and this year?
Yeah. I mean, for PR, it's good strategy. I mean, you put everything on the table, and then whatever happens, you can say, yeah, we were going into the offseason looking at everything. We could run it back. We could make changes. I mean, the only thing they said they're not doing is
trading Jokic.
So that's pretty much all anyone really wants to hear, besides actually wanting to know what the real plan is. But I kind of do believe that they're going to look at all the options. And I mean, we explored Jamal trades last week, and, you know, comparing him 1-to-1 with other talented players. And, you know, the fans were not convinced that he was comparable to a lot of those people. And then
I mean, I saw a lot of comments, by the way, about that on the episode. And I'm like, guys, that's why for most of them, we said the other team would say no. Like that's how that exercise works. We're going through it and talking about like, you know, which team feels like they're getting like the raw end of the deal here. Right.
And I think it's kind of illuminating. Like I kind of came away from that. Like, I'm not convinced there is a good Jamal trade. And so I'm like, maybe it does make more sense to run it back. And same with AG, like we're going to go through it, and I have questions about that too. And so, I mean, the reality is such that it might be hard to change the roster. So I do believe him when he says like running it back is a possibility, because they may have no choice.
Here's the thing. Here is the financial pressure on the millionaires against running it back. And in particular against, the point is like being deep into the luxury tax while you're a repeater team. So the way the luxury tax works is like it's generally like a 1-to-1. Like you have to pay an extra $1 for every $1 you're spending on salary above the tax line, basically, right? Right now, going into next season, Denver has 11 players signed. Let's call that 10. Let's say Jonas is out. They just waive him, or they trade him to somebody that wants to waive him. Right now, without Jonas's money, with only 10 players signed, they're already $6 million above the tax. That's before you pay Peyton. And that's before you sign any of the other, because if you have one, you have 3 more free agents you have to sign after that. So if you're paying Peyton, let me just see. I'm going to look at the luxury tax table just so people can understand I don't care about the financial pressures. I want to be clear about that, but I want you guys to understand what the total, what they're looking at in terms of like, how much do we want to be paying on players versus luxury tax payments? because the way that the multipliers end up working out when you're a repeater team, as in you've been above the luxury tax for too many years in a row, and Denver wasn't able to get out of the repeater by just ducking the tax once. You have to duck it twice, I think, in like a 4-year period. So they'd have to duck it again, and then they could break the repeater. You've probably heard that term. Those multipliers become like almost 4x the player's salary. So if you're above, like, for example, if you were above the luxury tax line and then you wanted to pay a player, like I said, Jonas, who makes $10 million, it actually ends up costing like $40 million because of those repeater tax penalties. And the owners voted for these onerous repeater tax penalties to be a thing because the whole point was to deter teams from spending too much money on talent. I'm just looking for the actual multipliers because it's kind of step ladders up. I think I know which page this is on actually, so I don't even need to search because I spend too much time looking at the CBA. Well, why don't you say something about the Kroenkes being... Why don't you talk about the practice facility stuff while I look for this? Talk about the off-court spending.
Yeah. Matt Moore always asks about the practice facility question, which I was kind of... I didn't think he needed to ask him every year because there was already such limited time, but whatever, he's going to do it. And he said the same BS he's been saying for so long about how they're looking into it, but it's real estate issues and they are planning to expand facilities outside Ball Arena. And, it's a whole thing going on at the city where they'll put like restaurants and all this stuff and remove the big parking lot that's out there. So maybe they will put a practice facility in there. And I don't think, like, if you guys have heard about this, the fact that the practice court is small and it's in Ball Arena, but like I've been in that practice court and it's right next to the gym where like the players can work out and lift, and the gym is like a slender hallway. Like I looked at it and I was like, how do they even fit in there? It was kind of shocking. So, but they definitely believe that practice facilities are not important because you barely practice in the NBA. The Avs and the Nuggets have won titles without it. So I feel like they just don't think it's necessary, but it's not a good look for the fact they haven't given the team that. So I don't know. You can look at it in many different ways. But
he also got kind of snippy when Vogt asked him about whether he thinks they've spent enough off court, basically.
Yeah.
Snippy with like a one-word answer, which was like...
Yeah, just yes. We have. Yeah, it was kind of I don't know, I guess it was a cool, kind of funny moment. But yeah. I don't care as much about it, to be honest. But I do feel bad that the facilities are so small.
How about we do this? I will do a show about the luxury tax and like more like aprons and whatever and like implications for roster building on maybe next week's episode, and then I'll like have a graphic, and so we can talk more about that part. But the point is, the Kroenkes, if they run it back, are staring down the barrel of a very hefty luxury tax bill if they run it back, and so they would want to, because of the repeater tax, and they would want to get under that probably. But there's a lot of other evidence that would point to them just waiting until the following year to try to break the repeater. It doesn't relieve them of the luxury tax payments that they would owe this year, is the thing. And it could depending on how much they end up spending. Like, let's say the best case scenario where they just bring everybody back, including Peyton, maybe Jonas is gone and they bring in like somebody else on like a minimum. They're probably still looking at almost $200 million just in the luxury tax payments separate from player salaries. And so that's the calculation that they are trying to make. Now, if you're spending that deep into the tax, we're talking about a team that is probably, if not like well over the second apron, like very much pressing up against it, which means you have all these other restrictions on roster building that that we could talk about on another episode. So we can kind of look at the scenarios for like what Denver can do in the different iterations of the offseason, how much flexibility they'd have coming out of it, depending on what they do vis-a-vis running it back. Speaking of more, considerations for all this, I wanted to talk about the statements on matching or wanting to re-sign Peyton Watson and what it would look like for him in restricted free agency. Josh said, quote, "We've developed a lot of things around here organically, so we want to hang on to those pieces for sure." Ben said, "Peyton's had a great year. We hope Peyton's a Nugget for a very long time." Jon said, "You've got to continue to hit on these homegrown talents." Right? So very, positive language coming about Peyton. What they didn't say, and what I would have wanted to hear personally, is we will match any offer that a team gives. Well, I wanted to hear the same stuff that the Lakers were leaking to everybody about Austin Reeves in his restricted free agency summer. That got it to the point where he basically had to accept his qualifying offer. And I'm not saying that Peyton would get to that point, because Peyton has like a different draft pedigree. Well, has a draft pedigree because Austin went undrafted and all of this stuff. But that's the power of the very unethical thing that is restricted free agency. But Denver needs to wield that in order to retain some semblance of a competitive edge, against these other teams. And I got a lot of pushback from, okay, maybe it wasn't that much. I got a little bit of pushback that was very strongly articulated, let's just say, about the fact that I wanted them to come out and say, we're going to match anything. I think that the place that pushback was coming from is a fear that Peyton's agent, Rich Paul, now was going to go out and find, this hefty RFA offer sheet for Peyton, and then Denver would be in a position where they had to match that. They're going to do that anyway, or they're going to try to get that anyway. The point of Denver coming out very strongly and very consistently in saying that we will match whatever, is to scare off other teams from making that offer. And you say, well, why would other teams be scared to make that offer? I want to read, or I want to put up a snippet from the CBA that explains basically the gist of why RFA is so unethical and so terrible for the players that are in it, and why it gives their home team so much power. Will, if you could bring up the CBA language clip snippet here. Okay, perfect. So this says, notwithstanding anything contained herein to the contrary, blah, blah, blah. For any offer sheet received by the ROFR team, which is the right of first refusal team, that is the home team of the player that is an RFA, during the moratorium period, we're going to talk about that, the home team, we're going to call them, shall have until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on July 7th, immediately following such moratorium period, to give the first refusal exercise notice, which is the matching, okay, we'll match this offer. So just to kind of decode that a little bit, usually what happens is the way that it's phrased with restricted free agents is that if an RFA gets an actual offer sheet from another team after they've become a restricted free agent, their home team only has, it's either 2 or 3 days usually to match that, or they give up their right to match that offer sheet or any offer sheet, right? So it's like, okay, once the player gets an offer sheet, the home team is on the clock now. When free agency technically starts on July 7th in terms of like everything being allowed to be official, but free agency in effect starts, well, way before that, because there's tons of tampering that happens all the time. But a lot of the deals are being negotiated and agreed to starting July 1st. That's the beginning of what's called the moratorium period, where players are allowed to negotiate with other teams, but technically aren't allowed to like sign a final deal. But like very rarely do you see anything reneged upon that is agreed to during the moratorium period. And then after that week, then everything gets signed and everything gets made official by other teams in terms of free agency. Okay. Now, if a team, and by the way, July 1st is when teams are allowed to start giving offer sheets to any free agent, including restricted free agents. If a team gave Peyton Watson an offer sheet during that week when all these free agent offers are being made, Denver has until the end of that week to match. And if they decide to match at the end of that week, so by the way, so a couple of things are happening technically on the side of the team that is giving Peyton Watson the option. Let's say it's the Lakers. That cap space that they want to use to sign Peyton is tied up. They are not allowed to make other offers on that cap space, other claims on that cap space in terms of offers to other players during that time. Like that's on lockdown. Lakers have a little bit more flexibility with it as of right now because they haven't yet extended Austin Reeves, and maybe they would ask Reeves to like wait on the extension until they could get all their ducks in a row with free agency of like new free agents before they extend him. But I also imagine Austin is going to be getting lots of offers as an unrestricted free agent this summer. So I don't know, the timing of when they do Austin Reeves extension is going to matter here for like that particular team. But otherwise, they can't use that cap space that they've allocated for Peyton's offer sheet for anybody else. And they could do that and wait a week to try to approach to wait to approach other high value free agents, or even use that cap space to engage in trades. They won't be allowed to do that either. That's the other thing that happens throughout free agency, as you and I know, Will, because like we got Jonas Valanciunas through a trade during free agency. Lots of trades were happening during free agency because you can use cap space for trades as well. But you can't use cap space that you've allocated for an offer sheet for an RFA, like for a trade. And what that does is it effectively puts free agency for the team that put in the offer sheet on ice until, in this case, Denver decides whether they're going to match the offer or not. And if Denver decides to match the offer, then you lose out on Peyton Watson and you lose out on any potential free agents that come in after that. This is a highly unethical tool from the point of the player because they are effectively stuck. This would happen with Jonathan Kuminga last summer. Nobody wanted to offer just like straight up like a straight offer sheet. Like part of what was the problem was like the Kings wanted Kuminga, but they didn't have cap space. So they needed the Warriors to agree to a trade. And the Warriors were not interested in anything the Kings were willing to offer. And so they had all the power in that case. That's why restricted free agents are so dependent on trying to find a team that has cap space to be interested in them enough to want to freeze their free agency. Oh, thank you on the break pod for letting me know. I will check out Locked On Nuggets after this. You need to find, as a restricted free agent, as a player, you need to find a team that has cap space that is interested enough in you to tie up that cap space for a week during free agency. And that means that they are tied up from not just offering free agents offers, but also from trades that would involve that cap space. And nobody does that. This is why restricted free agents don't get offer sheets. The only restricted free agent that I can recall getting an offer sheet within the last within the last 3 off seasons, so not counting the one we're going into, but was Matisse Thybulle, who was a restricted free agent for the Blazers. The Mavericks offered him money, and then Portland matched, and that was that. And Dallas was screwed. That was the summer they ended up with Grant Williams. They turned everything around at the deadline, but blah, 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 blah. I agree, RX Smart. Thank you, by the way. So yes, Denver has hella leverage, not just against Peyton, but they have leverage against Peyton in negotiations because they have leverage against the teams that would want Peyton, because Denver could hold them hostage for a week if they want to keep Peyton. And that's why I would have been more than okay with them using the strongest terms in that press conference to, instead of all of this, like, Denver hopes they can keep Peyton Watson. Denver is probably going to trade Cam Johnson in order to keep, and that might be what you do because you are trying to stay under the second apron, stay under the luxury tax, whatever it is. But in terms of messaging, and messaging matters here because the point is to wield the threat of blowing up another team's free agency by saying we will match your offer and you will be wasting your time, and you could blow up your own free agency by like trying to like try us in this mode. Now, I want to be clear. I think that the way that Denver handled the Jonas Valanciunas situation last year bodes well for what they're going to end up doing with Peyton Watson. They should wield every tool at their disposal with restricted free agency in order to retain him, which includes like just the like not so veiled threat of blowing up another team's free agency. And by the way, I meant in terms of like the way they handled Val, they were like, no, we're not just going to let you out of your contract. Like, we are going to use the tools of the state, in this case, the state being the NBA and like the CBA here, in order to like make your life hell if you try to, kind of make things difficult for us here, because Denver has all the leverage. Now, last thing I'll say on this, because I think it's relevant. Everybody knows that Denver's trying to duck the luxury tax. I think one reason that you don't say you're trying to duck the luxury tax is you don't want other teams to be like, oh, Denver's in a weak position when it comes to Peyton Watson because they may not want to match. Like, we can find a number that's high enough that they won't want to match. And so they try to test Denver in that way. So I think it's smart to leave the luxury tax part ambiguous. I think it would have been even smarter to be like, that's not even a concern for us. Just lie. Like, obviously it's a concern. Say it's not. Just lie, okay? Publicly. Like, you lied to the fans just straight up last year when you said that you were essentially going to run it back and whatever, and then shocked everybody with the moves that you made thereafter. But it also goes back to last summer when Josh made the comments about, all the restrictions that come with the second apron, and like they don't want to be put in a position where they might have to consider trading Nikola Jokic and all of that. Now everybody in the league also knows that you see the second apron as a hard cap. Oh, no, sorry. You're not scared of the second apron, but it's not scary, but it's scary. Right? If anybody remembers those quotes. The point is that you're projecting weakness because you have artificially publicly imposed another constraint on yourself when it comes to free agent negotiations in a way that you just didn't need to. And you could have just been like, we're always going to create the best roster possible, blah, 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 and just lie when it comes I would have supported that wholeheartedly, even if they gone against it, because it puts you in a stronger negotiating position instead of agents and other teams trying to see like, what are these other things that we can try to poke at when it comes to Denver in order to leverage them, right? So that's my rant about the Peyton Watson stuff and RFA. I do think that they're going to end up retaining Peyton, but I do think that they have not put themselves in the most optimal position in terms of public posturing to make it so that they retain him at a at the best price, because I do think that there's a higher chance now that he gets some kind of offer sheet, and appear weak. Poppin says appear weak when you are strong and strong when you are weak. Yes, exactly. Like that's why, like, act like a cornered animal and like start, snapping back. What was I saying about something about the offer sheet? But that's how I feel about restricted free agency. That's also just the facts of it. Like I said, only one player in the last 3 off seasons as a restricted free agent has gotten an offer sheet from another team. I'm not even talking about like they went, because Matisse Thybulle didn't even go to the Mavs. Portland, like I said, matched his offer, and that's why he's still a Blazer. But other teams aren't even willing to offer. And I think that you need to, as an organization, be willing to press that button. And so I would be aggressively leaking at this point that you're going to match any offer to keep Peyton Watson and scare off other teams. Just be like, nope. Like, oh, you want to try this? Like, I dare you, honestly. Because otherwise they'll test you. And yeah. Okay. Do you have it? Sorry, I spent a lot of time on that. Do you have any thoughts or feelings about the Peyton Watson thing?
I mean, you'll hear other Nuggets journalists talking about trying to squeeze Peyton, and everyone's interested in the number and wondering if another team's going to give him like a $40 million. I don't think that's going to happen. He's just not good enough. He hasn't proven that he's good enough to warrant that amount. Like, we're already mad that we have CB and AG and Jamal Murray for these numbers. Like, teams aren't.
And this is the problem with like overpaying your own players, because when you have other players that outplay them, that maybe just play up to what that contract value is, you're like, well, like in the case of like Peyton versus Christian, it's like, well, I had a better year than Christian, and by the way, like that's a low ass bar. Like, it was terrible. Peyton had like a great month. That's the other thing I want people to recognize. And we talked about this when we did our like comparison to like Jonathan Kuminga's, like the January he had before his restricted free agency, and it didn't cause other teams to bite in that case either. I do think the new like tanking rules that are probably coming down the pike, that are not, official yet or anything, probably change the calculus for some teams like Brooklyn to be more interested in like, no, it's time to get good now. We need to like try to get good players in the door. That maybe wasn't necessarily part of their calculus last summer. Still like boggles my mind that they decided, they were like, nope, we don't want Kuminga, even though they didn't pay Cam Thomas. Like, they had so little payroll even after the MPJ trade. It was pretty surprising to me that they weren't just like, yeah, let's get a young athletic whatever guy to come in here and put up numbers. I thought that was a big blunder by Brooklyn, because I think that Golden State would have just been like, whatever. Like, I don't think that they would have matched like I don't think they would match any 4-year deal, but even if you wanted to just be 3 years, like 3 for 25, 3 for 75 with a player option, even, I don't think Golden State would have been interested in that. But that's just me. Like, I see the calculus where I'm like, some other teams should be interested in these RFAs, but they're not. And I think that that's a tool that Denver can and should wield if they are serious about retaining Peyton Watson at a reasonable price. Okay. All right. Last 2 sections here from the exit interviews. Josh sees himself as the chief of culture. He cited complacency as the top lesson that was learned from not just this last season, but the last 3 years. This was, I think, this was the first question of the presser from Adam Mares about lessons learned over the last 3 years since the championship. Josh said, quote, continuity is a powerful thing, but change is also a powerful thing sometimes. And Josh didn't reference what he was specifically talking about there, but I have to imagine that he is was at least partially thinking about the jolt, quote unquote, that was issued to the team by the firing of Michael Malone and Calvin Booth with 3 games left in the season. Josh also said that injury and personal things can affect somebody for a long time thereafter. And that seemed to very clearly be referencing AG. Obviously has been affected by the passing of his brother. This was now 2 seasons ago, right? I don't know if anybody noticed that he changed his jersey number from 50 to 32 because he was honoring his brother in that way. And then Josh also said that, quote, complacency is something we had that I saw in some people this year. And I was kind of curious who you thought he might have been referring to here. I know, like, I saw Adamaris think it might have been AG because of the other comments about AG and how, like, personal things can affect somebody for a long time thereafter. That personal thing in this case being, like, the death of a very, very close family member. Dolly says, everyone wondering about that complacency quote. And to me, he's talking about Jokic. I do think that Jokic is like the best second best candidate for that quote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they've talked about Jamal in opposite terms from this season. And we also saw opposite from Jamal this season than complacency. Whereas in any other season, you probably could have thought that they were talking about Jamal.
Yeah. I feel like it's CB and Jokic.
Christian is also a candidate for this for sure. For sure, because I think I'm trying to remember if Josh actually said this or if I just imagined that he thought it. But Christian is definitely a candidate for this as well. A lot of people cite the injury. Christian came into the season looking terrible before the injury, by the way. And we know that can be affected by long, drawn out contract negotiations. And for some reason, they waited way too long to get through to get through contract negotiations for Christian, and then didn't even get a good number out of it. I was kind of like, if you're just going to do this, why didn't you do this a month ago? Josh also said that people have to evolve in their own roles. Quote, guys who were 26 or 27 after the chip are now in their early 30s. Now they're fathers. I mean, he's clearly talking about Jokic with this one because he's the only guy in his 30s who's a father. Does Jonas have kids? Maybe he's talking about Jonas. He's not talking about Jonas, though. He's talking about Jokic with that one. In terms of evolving with the roles, it's like, okay, you're dad now. Does that? And that he keeps referencing this fathership thing, and him, DA, like they've been doing this kind of since last summer. And I'm kind of like, does the fact of these guys being dads mean that they should be better leaders in the locker room? Because I just don't think those things go together necessarily.
If anything, I thought he was saying their fathers as in like they're distracted. Like they have other
That's
priorities.
what I was thinking too, but then it was in reference to this people have to evolve in their own roles quote. So I was like, oh, I hadn't put those things together in terms of, like, I was thinking about, like, yeah, having kids, like, making you more, not complacent, but maybe less hungry. Like, you're just in a different life stage than you were when you were just, like, young and scrappy and trying to prove yourself in this league. But then it was put together with this quote about having to evolve in your own role. And it was about, like, locker room leadership, kind of. So the question was about like locker room leadership. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's not how I thought you were thinking about this when you referenced it earlier, but that recontextualizes some of your earlier statements as well. Which is interesting. Is Josh married? Does he have kids?
I think he's married to one of the Waltons or whatever from Walmart or whatever.
His mom is a Walmart heiress. So Stan is.
Oh, Stan is? Oh, Stan is. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I don't know about Josh.
Yeah. So that's. I don't know about Josh either. But yeah, I wonder if Josh thinks like, yeah, being a dad should make you a better locker room leader, right? I don't know. But he's not the only one who said that stuff. DA kind of alluded to this last year. Like this was a big part of like, we're turning the locker room into a locker room that holds itself accountable so that like I as head coach don't necessarily have to play, you know, that hothead role. Yeah, but I thought that was interesting. Josh also said my job in the organization is to help make decisions without emotion. Said that this was it, and this is in reference to, the quote that I opened the show with, right? And I thought that was an interesting comment to make in an off season where they're going to be facing some really big questions about what to do with the roster, what to do with the payroll. And he still thinks that Denver has a genuine championship culture, or at least he said he did. And it just needs to be, quote, challenged and questioned. So this actually adds to the idea of running it back, is he's just like, I'm very focused on our culture. I still think we have a championship culture, but like it just needs to be challenged and questioned a little bit. I thought a lot of this stuff was pretty squishy, to be honest. It's a lot of the stuff that you say when you're going to run it back, but like I said, I don't think that they know what they're going to do yet. So
yeah, I don't think so either. I think they're going to explore stuff, and I think it's kind of like we were talking about. Like if they get a really good offer for Jamal, that seems like a Nuggets fan's dream, like an offer you can't refuse, they'll do it for sure. But I just don't think that's going to happen. And it's like, what kind of deal would they make that's you're losing out on in talent level, but you're filling out the roster with more dudes who can do more things around Jokic? And that's the question that we're going to see.
Okay. Before we close out press conference stuff, we should actually talk about some of the stuff that the head coach of the team got to say in his 17 minutes of answers here. The main takeaway, honestly, with Adelman is that he was really focused on ball handling. He said we struggled versus pressure against both Mini and OKC last year. So the toughest part for me as a coach was to watch the group do what they did, play as hard as they did, and they go out. Now, from DA's perspective, their issue wasn't energy or effort or commitment. It was they got outplayed, which I think is an interesting position to take as a coach, because you either think as a coach that it was because you were missing the guys you were missing to injury, or because your roster is lacking in something, not because the guys who were on the floor needed to play better. Or could play better, I should say, under these circumstances. He said on the ball handling front, quote, I saw positives just having Tyus in the game. Talked about Tyus being out there, making it easier for other guys to get free. He said we have to rely on more people to bring the ball up the floor. Said everybody's got to have responsibility to get better at that stuff. We're going to talk about the defense a little bit, right? Hang on. DA referenced this a little bit, like multiple times actually over the course of a few different answers to questions. How he's like, I've seen the team improve, but like the league's improving by even more. So it's like, yeah, we improved in some ways in our ball handling and like being able to get the ball off the floor, this, that, and the other. But, now there are even better athletes and more teams like pressuring more consistently. Yeah. And so even though we improved in that, it wasn't by enough to kind of keep up with how much the league is improving around us. And he's very focused on this question of ball handling and initiation, not so much creation. So there weren't a lot of quotes about like what you do once the ball is up the floor. And I'm going to be honest, like pressure was a problem, but it didn't seem like the biggest problem for me, us getting the ball up the floor to initiate the offense. That was definitely an issue against OKC, that and the shooting. But I thought that actual creation, once you got to the half court or even in transition, like you got the ball up the floor and you don't know what to do with the ball. Like that seemed like a bigger issue to me, but DA's very focused on this initiation question.
I thought maybe I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt of kind of putting them together. And maybe he didn't say it explicitly. Yeah. He did talk explicitly about bringing the ball up the floor and he wanted more people to do that. But I just assumed with more ball handling that could handle pressure. Yeah. Would lead to creation.
Right. Because like if you can if you can break pressure, then you can like do something with the ball.
And it's related. Like I hate to say it because I have been an offense is more important than defense person, but I even am surprised at how important defense has been in the playoffs so far, and it's more important than I gave it credit for. And I know that it is important. Maybe like a 60-40 kind of split is what I'd have it. Now I'd have it closer. And the ball handling relates to that, like pressured against long defenders in the playoffs. We talked about how difficult it is to guard so much space and so much shooting. Well, it's looking more manageable right now. Like guys are doing it in the playoffs. They're flying around and pressuring dudes and not being called for being physical, to be honest.
I mean, hand checking is just like rampant, and it's just like, this is what you do now. Not if you're on Denver, because like we don't have anybody that even like does that. We'll like have guys that like pull a guy's arm and be like, "Why did I get called for a foul?" And it's like, "No, you got to like stay in front of him and hand check."
Like in the regular season, we've seen drivers get such preferential treatment, and they emphasize the.
I do think that had that been a little bit less this season, even in the regular season, though. I think there's more physicality allowed on drives this regular season than either of the previous two, for sure.
Well, they said they wanted to emphasize the driver's path and all that, and I maybe at the beginning of the season saw more of that being called, but I just felt like it's crazy the amount that they're allowing in this playoffs, except for on some players. Yeah, I don't know. It's inconsistent and whatever, but defense has been crazy, and we need defense and we need ball handling.
Last thing on the offense here, DA talked about the shooting and, the lack of made shots. And he said, quote, "Shot quality is what's important to me." And Will, if you could bring up the graphic I've got here on 3-point efficiency. I actually wrote a little, like, not even an article. It's like a blog post basically about 3-point shooting in the playoffs. And one of the things that I found here is if you look at the red data points are playoffs, blue is regular season, and the I'm just looking at the correlation between 3-point efficiency, y-axis, and the x-axis is the percentage of your 3-point attempts as a team that are open or wide open. As you can see with the red data points, they're more scattered. There's a lot more variance in the playoffs because it's a smaller sample size, right? But I actually want to look at the regular season points and see that there is no correlation between the percentage of your team's 3-point shots that are open or wide open and your team's 3-point efficiency, which was pretty shocking to me. Like, I was not surprised to find kind of no pattern with the playoff stuff because it is such a small sample size. But looking at the regular season, I was definitely expecting to see a little bit more of a positive trend line there. But it's like basically no correlation. If anything, like if you drew the line through the blue dots, it was a little bit negative. But it's really like no correlation there, which was pretty surprising. I wrote a longer article about more aspects of the 3-point shooting, but you can take that down now, Will. I kind of closed it with like, the next time you hear a coach or a player after a loss talk about like, well, we got good shots, it's like, well, apparently that doesn't matter. Making shots obviously matters, efficiency matters, but the way you get to that isn't necessarily by having better shot quality anymore. And I don't think that it's like shot quality doesn't matter. I think it's gotten to a point where shot quality overall, like across teams, is so good. Like I think I didn't look at teams that didn't make the playoffs, but among playoff teams, I think the Blazers had the worst percentage of their shots that are open or wide open in the regular season, and it was still like 84%. And like things have been optimized so much to a degree that in the NBA you have to work on other margins to improve efficiency if it's going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Couple quotes on the defense from DA. I know RX Smart was asking for it. On the defense, DA said, quote, "Over the 6 games, I thought the defense was not good enough." And that was important for everybody to hear because, and Matt Moore over at Lockdown Nuggets has been on this, that, yeah, the defense was better than the regular season, but everybody's defensive rating is better in the playoffs because like nobody can make shots except for like 2 teams, OKC and the Knicks. DA talked a lot about how they were really good at stopping first actions and second actions. But then that quote, the last 7 seconds of the shot clock has to be better. And he included getting the defensive rebound in that. But he spent a lot of time also talking about what happens in that last 7 seconds is like, okay, you just throw it to a guy to try to take their man off the dribble, ISO, whatever. And he said that the ball containment was terrible, like piss poor, basically. This despite the defensive rating that a lot of people look at and they're like, well, the defense wasn't really the problem. It's like, well, it wasn't the solution either, because even though they were better than they were in the regular season, they were still a bottom half playoff defense. DA said, quote, and this is kind of related to his defensive rebounding question, quote, all the small ball lineups were our best defensive lineups. And he said the reason why is that they were better at containing the ball, but they still need to get better at that. And in reference to Jokic, he's like, he's got great hands, but you can't get blown by all the way to the rim. And this was like the first time that I've really seen DA like publicly, not the first time, because he's talked about containment in the regular season for sure. But this is the most pointed I think DA has been about Jokic's defense all season. In reference to like, yeah, he's got good hands, but like you can't let a guy like blow by you to the rim. And this is the bull by, to be fair, is not just Jokic, it's also the point of attack defender. But he was also clearly referencing Jokic in that statement. And I thought that was like, he's just like, I'm just going to expect a lot better of guys. And I want to make it clear, all reports indicate that DA is very like tough and direct on guys in the locker room, even if he's not so much so publicly. And this is like a little bit of that, not spilling out into the public sphere, because this wasn't like some emotional outburst after a game. This is a week removed of getting eliminated from the playoffs. And I almost kind of wonder like what the purpose of like revealing this here was for DA. And I really just think it was like honesty. Like I thought that, like I said, he made the most of his answers, even if you don't necessarily agree. So for example, with me, like I would have liked to hear him talk more about creation on ball and not just initiation and getting the ball up the floor, but maybe he was thinking about that. But he sees that as a fundamental problem. And so he expounded on it like 3 or 4 different ways. With the defense, he has a very clear idea of what went wrong, and I thought that he expounded on that pretty well. Even if you disagree with him, you know what he's thinking now. You're like, this is what he sees as the problem. And I thought for that part, DA's part of this press conference was pretty it was illuminating, because now I understand. I know a lot more about what DA is thinking than what Josh is thinking, let's say. Which is, you know, the way that it goes with front office versus head coach stuff. But I thought the DA left it pretty unambiguous where he sees the room for improvement for the team is.
Yeah. Bennett Durando wrote about it, which I thought was a good article about DA kind of going to bat for the players and just making it an emphasis to not publicly call them out or hold them accountable in the press conferences after games, and how that the way the Malone was doing that was annoying the players, which I think is kind of funny. Like,
I know
it's
like,
not a good look for the players.
Like your whole career, it's never a good look for the players when everyone's saying you quit on your coach, right?
Yeah, they kind of quit on him and were like, "Oh, he's talking bad about us in the press. We don't like that." Just like, don't be so moody. Like, take some criticism. But whatever. I guess they want DA to not do that, so he's not going to do it. And so when people are like, "I want DA to be super harsh," or to be super harsh on these guys, he's not going to do it, because that was like the point of hiring him, was don't talk shit about the players at the press conference. Anyway, CT asked if you think the Murray Jokic duo is tenable defensively. I know Matt Moore said it's not anymore. I've been wondering about that, and I don't know. It's just they want to change.
I think it could be if we had more secondary true secondary creation. Because right now Jamal's just taking on so much offensively. When we look at like the beginning of the season, Jamal was good defensively. Like Jamal was not actually one of the problems that I would point to for most of like the first like 2 months of the season before Jokic got hurt, right? He had like, I think like a bad like week in November, but other than that, I was like, oh, he's just been better since then. I think it was like after that like really bad defensive start. January hits, he's taking on all the offensive burden, and the defense completely cratered. And it just never bounced back from that. So I don't think that like Jamal's physically incapable of it, but I think it does make things harder, right? But the question is like, what is your balance going to be of like on ball creation and defense around this? Why can't we work like the Knicks? I agree. Why not? Maybe because Jalen Brunson took a discount. I think he only makes. Just gonna quickly run over to New York Knicks right now. That probably should be investigated. Jalen Brunson only makes $37 million right now. He makes less than MPJ. That's why. But actually, I don't know how that. I'm going to be honest. I think Mike Brown probably should have gotten more Coach of the Year votes because I have no idea how that roster got to a top 7 defense this year. Just genuinely, the magic playing in the East. I don't know. Okay, let's speed run through our AG section here. Okay, well, so this is going to go a little bit differently than last week because we have some limited time here. But the idea here is I took one player from almost every team. I skipped a couple of teams because I just literally couldn't find anything that Denver would be interested. But I took one player from each team that Denver could be interested in trading AG for in the context of they want to get cheaper, they want to get more athletic, or they want to get rim protection. There's a couple of those in here. And I'm just going to ask you who says no in all of these deals. Or like, again, it's similar to the Jamal thing. Who says no or asks for a pick? Like, who is the team that thinks that they're getting screwed if it's just a 1-to-1? Okay. Trading with the Atlanta Hawks for Jonathan Kuminga.
Kuminga. I think Nuggets say no.
Okay. I agree.
I don't think he's good enough.
I think the Hawks like jump at that, to be honest, because they're trying to get serious. And they don't have a max player, like, so they have room to be like spend a little bit more on their roster. Derrick White.
Yeah, this is one that's popular with people more. Like, I don't know if it was people talking about Jamal for him or
you're not.
AG,
by the way, you're not actually saving money with this deal. This would probably be one. There's a couple of these on here that is just like this is a precursor to a Jamal Murray trade. But I also don't think it happens because I think Boston thinks they can get
Boston
more.
says no. I think Boston says no. This would be, I think, something that the Nuggets might want, but
only if you're trading Jamal, because otherwise it doesn't really make sense because you're not saving money and you just got smaller.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Has he been? I feel like I've been seeing criticism of Derrick White. Like they didn't. He hasn't been as efficient. Playoffs.
But like the defense is still there, and he's older too. Like you're not really getting more athletic with this trade, like in aggregate, because you're giving up AG, but he's more available. So that's a tough one, but Boston says no. I agree. Nick Claxton.
Nuggets.
Leaning in double big. You think Denver says no? He only makes $20 million, which is part of his cost savings on most of these deals. Okay. You're like,
what do you think?
Denver says no. No, that's fine. I was just like, that. I was like, there's literally, unless you were just like trading for MPJ, there's nobody on the Nets that Denver is interested in right now, which is like probably big incentive for Brooklyn to try to go after Peyton Watson because they really have nobody that anybody wants.
I just don't think. Yeah, if you're gonna try to go a double big route with Jokic, Claxton's not the way.
Miles Bridges.
Why? Why'd you include this one?
I just like included somebody from Charlotte. I already have an answer pre-filled in here.
Yeah,
my answer is me. I say
Grace. Every Nuggets fan says no to this, maybe except for a few. Yeah. I've seen this trade floated by some.
I have too, and I don't understand it outside of a salary dump that just makes everything depressing and terrible.
I think people think he's like a vertical spacer and is athletic and might be an AG archetype player, but I just don't want him. Yeah, no women beaters on the team.
Well, no known. Jalen Smith. This is a tough one because Chicago was another team that I could not find another player that Denver would be genuinely interested in besides Jalen Smith, but the salary is so low that I don't think Chicago could even go for it if they wanted to, because they'd have to be able to send some more out, and I just don't think there's anybody else on the team that we want. They try to give us like Patrick Williams, and that's a non-starter, right?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of trades involving Jalen Smith, but with multiple people, of course.
Yeah.
So if this was something,
well, it was easier when it was like when Io was there, because like Jalen Smith plus Io DeSumo actually might have been an interesting one, but now he's gone. Like Io was involved in almost every Chicago Bulls trade I saw last summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's no one else from the Bulls, so you'd have to get another team involved and reroute someone to another team. But there's not a good enough return.
You basically have to reroute AG, and it's like, well, why would you do that? I don't know. Maybe Chicago would think that they could get draft capital for that.
He is a cheaper contract, so maybe you could get him with like a Cam trade for some guys, and something like that.
So who says no? I think Denver says no. Maybe, I don't know.
For AG, Denver says no.
Okay. Which team is this? This is Cleveland. So Dennis Schroeder and Dean Wade together from Cleveland. I think Cleveland says no because they're trying to decrease their payroll probably, and this would increase it. But this is something that they would do if they were also trading Jarrett Allen and wanted another front court player to play next to Mobley. So
Schroeder, I think Denver would say no for sure. But I think next season, the NBA should just let Dennis Schroeder play on a different team every night. Just because that's what it feels like.
Which jerseys has he not accumulated? I don't think he's been on the Wizards yet. Or the Rockets.
I was watching the Detroit Cavs, and I was like, he's on the Cavs now? When did that happen? He was on like 17.
Wait, he was on the Pistons last year, wasn't he?
I don't know.
For like 2 seconds. Didn't he get traded there as like part of the summer deal? I don't know if he actually ever played in a Pistons jersey. I don't know.
Like, he might be like, let's say you do the Jamal trade thing and you get a better forward. He could be a cool, like, filling in for point guard kind of a thing. Maybe, I don't know if he could be a starting point guard for us though.
Okay. Next, PJ Washington.
I feel like Dallas would say no.
Yeah. They're like, we've got a great power forward that costs $20 million less than AG. Why would we? Yeah. It was different last year. They had like a lot of front court players, and I didn't know if they were going to extend PJ because they were going into the second apron, but now they've kind of restructured things and taken some of that pressure off of themselves. So, Dallas is no. Ron Holland. I mean, I think Detroit says no because I don't know. Maybe Detroit looks at this year's playoffs and they're like, we just need like creation depth. So it'd probably be like Ron Holland plus like Tobias Harris. I don't know if he's still under contract next year though, Tobias. If they get eliminated because they didn't have enough offense, they might. I don't think they'd give up Ron Holland for that though. Like I think they would. If they'd want like a high value pick to go with that kind of trade probably. So I would say like Detroit wouldn't say no, but they would ask for a pick. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think because I don't know what do you think of Ron Holland as a player?
He's a good defender, and that's it. This would be a cost saving, like upside swing for Denver. They'd be like, we save money on AG in the short term, and then we hope that Ron Holland like lives up to his draft potential. But I was thinking about Duren, but then I was like, Denver doesn't want to pay him, so.
The Pistons going out early, they could look to make some moves for sure.
Yeah. Hey, you want Cam Johnson? We haven't looked at Cam Johnson trades. Maybe that's next week. Okay.
And I think Which is funny because I think that's going to be the trade that's actually going to happen.
Right, but I think that those are going to happen, and then the Jamal and AG trades might happen on top of that. Like, I think the Cam trades are happening regardless.
Yeah, true.
All right, Draymond Green. I think that one's...
Oh, God. That's a
Denver
no
says
from
no.
the...
Like, that just changes too much of how we play on both ends of the floor.
Yeah, I think it's a no from the Warriors, too. I just don't think either team would think about it. The Warriors seem committed to Draymond for the weirdest
just extended
reason.
Steve Kerr, which means Steph Curry was like, I only want to play under Steve.
Yeah. The Warriors are so weird. Steve Kerr. I don't know.
All right, next is Kevin Durant.
Would you do... Okay. We'll
Art Smart says Adri for Rui and a first. Which first? Not a Lakers first. Then again, that probably means they don't take Peyton.
But Rui's not very good.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He's a good bench player. So the idea would be like Rui comes here, AG goes there, Peyton moves up into the starting lineup. You might even keep Cam in that case because you save so much money with that. Depends on how like far into the tax they want to go, but it's an interesting trade. Okay, so Kevin Durant. Denver doesn't say no, but I say no.
Yeah, Denver says yes. That would just be...
I don't know. Like, does Houston... I don't know if anybody says no in this deal, to be honest, except me. But...
Yeah, I don't think I could stomach getting trading Mr. Nugget for Kevin Durant. It's like my... Literally my favorite player in the league in AG for my least favorite player. This would be crazy.
All right. Jarris Walker and TJ McConnell.
I like that you included a TJ McConnell trade for yourself.
This was originally just going to be TJ. And I thought I should probably include another player. Helps Denver get a little bit more athletic, gives us a little bit more forward depth.
Got the ball handling and
got some ball handling.
Some creation. But how is Walker? How's his defense?
His defense is good. The offense is the sketchy thing.
I think like we're going to be getting some kind of, if we were to do trades, that's the kind of players we're getting.
I feel like Denver would say yes to this, but I don't think Indiana would. I think they really like Jarris Walker. I don't know, but maybe they'd like AG too. Like, the injury history makes it tough. I think if AG had played like 15 more games this season, this is more of a question, but because of the injury stuff, Indiana actually says no.
I think both. I think Denver would say no too, but I don't know.
I feel like the thing with Denver is if you're trading AG, you're trying to save money. That's the thing with the Jamal stuff is like you really have to get a good return back. If you're trading AG, it's because you're trying to save money. Or because you're already decided you're trading Jamal too, and like this is just like a complete reorientation of the roster. Like there's no universe where you're just trading AG and trying to get value back at this point because of the season that he had. So I think if you've already gotten to the point where you're trading AG, you've kind of resigned yourself to getting like slightly negative value at least back.
Yeah, I feel like that has to be the case because if he was healthy and a team was seriously trading for him at that price and thinking, yeah, he's going to play and not having injury concerns, and that was the idea, then the Nuggets would just keep him because he would just mean more to us. So
yeah,
I'm just really thinking an AG trade's not going to happen, but mostly because they're just like, I didn't want to say AG was not tradable because I love him and I feel like teams could use him and he's great, but I'm starting to doubt that. The injury stuff makes it
tough. But I also think that, again, like if Denver's goal is saving money, they could probably try to find like a reclamation project in there somewhere. Like depending on how you see some of these like young prospects that haven't quite lived up to their draft potential, but like maybe you think they still have it because of like the tools. Indiana's on tilt because of the draft. They might make some questionable decisions. Call me when they actually make a questionable trade decision, like on a player. That draft thing was always going to be a 50-50 proposition. Like they knew that at the time they made the trade. And I was kind of like, that's a lot to give up for Zbots, but maybe it works out for them. And it just didn't. So I wouldn't have made that move, but it is what it is. IJax and Derrick Jones Jr. from the Clippers.
I don't know a lot about IJax, but I like
athletic.
Derrick Jones Jr.
His thing is injuries too, so it's kind of like
Cam for Derrick Jones Jr. Cam and guys for Derrick Jones and Chris
Cam
Dunn.
and guys.
Cam and Chris Dunn.
Which Cam?
Or sorry, Cam Johnson for Derrick Jones Jr. and Dunn.
I want a big. Like, get me another forward. I want IJax. I've wanted Isaiah Jackson for like 2 years for this Nuggets team.
Okay,
I've wanted Isaiah Jackson for Denver since the trade deadline after they extended Zeke Naji, and I'm like, this could have been a 1-for-1 swap because they were both entering restricted. Well, they would have been both entering restricted free agency if Zeke hadn't been extended. But Clippers are like, they don't have their picks. They're trying to kind of win, I guess. I don't know if anybody says no on this one because you just get more athletic and you just kind of like get more, you get more athletic players, not more athletic, but
yeah, this would be the kind of like idea of a trade, right?
Yeah.
This archetype.
Skipped the Lakers. How much more time do you have? I'm just gonna ask you.
I can finish it out. It out.
All right. From Memphis. I would have loved actually to have Brandon Clarke in one of these, but Santi Aldama and Ty Jerome. I think Memphis says no because of Ty Jerome. I don't actually think they would mind moving on from Santi, but I think they say no because
Jerome
of Ty
was
Jerome.
good.
He's also the one I want.
Ty Jerome was killing us, man.
Just need more creation. Like, I just think they straight up need more creation. Now, he sucked in the playoffs for Cleveland. I want to make that clear. Like, it was just like, oh, he's effectively not a creator, not a playoff player at all. If you just go based off of what he did with Cleveland against the Pacers. I can't even remember what he did against the Heat in that first round. So he might have been better in that series, but he was like unplayable against the Pacers. So there is still that question mark about him that might make Memphis willing to move him if it means like, oh, getting Aaron. Like, I'd love to put Aaron Gordon next to Zach Edey and like help get this like locker room more serious and kind of respectable. Reunite him with KCP. So I think Memphis says no, but I don't think it's a definite. I think that they would be, they'd pick up the phone. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't immediately hang up the phone.
I was going to joke, a Ty Jerome would be a playoff dropper for us. But I was just thinking because the Nuggets are cursed and have been not being able to hit shots in the playoffs for 2 seasons. But maybe he
which
just
is fine. I actually don't care about him making shots, but can he set other guys up? I have to look at his turnover rate in the playoffs from that Pacers series. Okay. Mm-hmm. Next one, Miami Heat, Davion Mitchell and Nikola Jovic. I think Miami says no. Because not because they value these players so highly, but because they want to keep that powder, whatever they consider their powder to be, dry for like a bigger star trade. But I actually don't think this is a bad deal for Miami.
Yeah, it's really not. It's not that bad of a trade, and we get the other Nikola.
Would love to play next to an actual 4, actually.
Mm-hmm. Especially one with so much.
They just haven't had success. One. They've had like Kevin. They had like Kevin Love's corpse, who's a stretch 4, and now he's had to play with Khalil Ware, kind of in double big-ish configuration.
Would AG fit Heat culture? Because if they run a lot, his hamstring's not gonna hold.
I mean, maybe they fix his hamstring. Kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, like, maybe they think they could.
There's like all kinds of sketchy South Beach doctors.
AG on the beach in Miami. Yes,
AG on the
Dahlia.
beach. I think you fit
Imagine
in
all
just
those
fine.
people fawning over him.
Yeah. I mean, people fawn over him in Denver, Colorado also. They probably fawn over him less because he's less of a physical outlier
He'd
in
blend
Miami.
in. Yeah, he'd blend in a little more.
I mean, he's taller than like 99% of the population still,
Yeah.
but other than that, I mean, AJ is still a specimen. It's more a comment on the gym rat culture of South Florida.
Nikola Jovic with Nikola Jokic would be so funny and great. But I don't want to. I don't want to do any of these trades, just for the record. But
yeah, I mean, any of them. I mean, you don't want to, but it's like,
yeah,
if they did something.
If we're going with the Josh Kroenke no emotion in the decision,
yeah,
what do you do?
I wouldn't mind the IJax Derrick Jones Jr. trade, like something like that, probably too.
Prometheus Soup says this trade would get Jokic a fellow Serb with less than the blow of trading AG.
Maybe
you can trade AG, but has
maybe
to be a
Davion
Serbian.
becomes the new Mr. Nugget.
Dahlia thinks Jovic is bad.
Yeah, maybe. This is all of these are also cost saving. Like, that's the thing. The only one I think that isn't was the KD trade. I think Denver would end up probably having to send out some other salary for that, and just like that would probably be a precursor to a Jamal trade too, because they don't want 3 max players on their books. All right, Myles Turner from the Milwaukee Bucks. Milwaukee says no to this because I think Myles is just more aggregate impact.
And with
he's just been available
Giannis on the way
in the regular
out,
season.
He's going to be their center with Giannis on the way out.
Yeah. So this one was tough because I just didn't want anybody on Milwaukee, except I was like, oh, I love Myles, but I don't think that there's no like impetus there for either team to swap for those archetypes.
It'd be interesting though to pair him with Jokic.
Okay, but for the next one for Minnesota, I almost was like, I don't want to trade with those fascists over there.
Damn.
I mean, if anything, they're not. They're like kind of anarchy. I mean, except Rudy, the actual fascism. Dante DiVincenzo and is it Johan Beringer? Or is it Joan Beringer?
It's Joan. Here's the name of.
It's Joan.
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't hate this one. I just don't think it necessarily accomplishes the goals at the position we want. You could look at Joan as like a potential backup center, future guy. This is just not really a great one. So I think I think both teams say no to this because I don't think that Minnesota needs another power forward.
We'll say no because then they won't have their little like we play hard for DiVincenzo because he tore his Achilles thing going on. They need to start wearing
also he
DiVincenzo
tore his
jerseys to
Achilles,
every
which
game.
I forgot. So he's not even going to be available next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So both teams say no. Actually, Minnesota might not because of the Dante thing.
Oh, they would say yes.
Phillies. Yeah. All right. New Orleans Pelicans, Trey Murphy and Herb Jones.
Well, so one. I assumed you meant one.
Oh, sorry, one of these. Yes. Yeah. This one was on either or. Trey Murphy or
because both. Yes.
I was actually thinking this one was interesting because the Pelicans might actually be more interested in moving Trey. That was wrong thinking though. They want to move Herb. He makes less money, but it's his contract is so much longer now because of his extension that I didn't understand that happened early. I didn't really understand it for Herb or the Pelicans because I thought Herb should have been able to get a higher average annual value, and the Pelicans just didn't need to extend him at that time, so it made him a little bit harder to trade. And so that could be like a way to like get a long-term like a long-term contract for like a guy who's athletic and a great defender. I mean, they're holding on to Trey because he's got trade value. Herb, I don't know why. They're holding on to Herb because they extended him, but I don't know why they extended him. I think that they should have traded him. So I think Herb would be an easier get. But if they went after Trey Murphy, if they were like AG and a pick, and maybe it was like AG and this year's late round first, and they traded on draft night, that would be like kind of weird Peyton Watson insurance, even though like Peyton is more athletic than Trey. And then you'd be like, maybe we're more willing to let Trey or let Peyton walk, but then you like don't have a power forward. It gets a little bit weird with the Trey Murphy swap. Yeah, so I actually think the Herb one would be interesting for both teams. So I think New Orleans says no to Trey, but it could be mutually beneficial for Herb because the Pelicans would shed longer-term salary. Or longer term, because AG still has 3 years left on his extension, but Herb has 5. So
he's been kind of the best consideration for perimeter defender to like help the Nuggets in that respect. But I don't know.
And he can be help side too. So that could be also Peyton Watson insurance, and then be like, okay, we're not as desperate to do X, Y, or Z in these negotiations. That's actually better Peyton Watson insurance than Trey Murphy. Josh Hart of the New York Knicks.
I think it's a no from Denver.
Okay. This is a straight. This would be a straight just salary dump move. I think
you're just getting more problems.
I think the Knicks would do this. Yeah, I think the Knicks would do this because Josh is more like their sixth man. I mean, if imagine AG coming off the bench for them, but even if he was starting, he could start next to Cat, and then he could also play next. He doesn't have to play backup center because they've got Mitchell Robinson.
They wouldn't need him to be like the only defender.
Yeah,
it would be good for them. Yeah.
So Denver says no, but I think they'd think about it if they were just trying to save money. The thing is, if you're just trying to save money, you probably need to have an idea of like where you're going to get a power forward from, because you don't have one now. Okay, we skipped OKC because the only players I want from them, they wouldn't trade with us. And here's the thing: their books are so top heavy that all of the 1-for-1 swaps that OKC would actually consider are for like $3 or $4 million contracts for these rookie scale guys. Yeah. So, all right. Next is Jalen Suggs. I think Orlando says no because if they're trading Suggs, their point is to save money. Does Denver also say no? Yes, because I think they're trying to save money, and this doesn't save them money. I don't think they'd say no though, because this would again, if they did this, it would be a precursor to a Jamal trade, probably.
Yeah, is Suggs becoming like a problem on the Magic? Like they're looking to get off of him in any way because
the money is a lot. I was surprised when he got that extension. I was like, I mean, that's great, but like he's making more than Derrick White right now, and I don't think that he's quite to that level yet. But the defense is legitimately just like insanely good. The offense gets so bad in the playoffs, like can't make anything. But apparently neither can like all but like 3 guards in the NBA this year. So, but he has no track record of having been good in that setting. And I think that's a problem. Plus their payroll is about to explode because Paolo, Franz, and Suggs' deals all not coming on at the same time, but now they're all going to be big at the same time because Paolo's is coming up. So I think they're looking to move him probably so that they can elevate probably, I don't know, Anthony Black into the starting lineup. And I would just be really sad if he ended up on another team, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. The next one is Philadelphia. This one was weird because they have a super top heavy structure. It was just Paul George, but Paul George ends up getting rerouted to another team, and then Philly gives us like picks to basically sell, but they would have to give up the picks to like the team that PG gets dumped to. So this one was kind of half-assed because I didn't really have a good answer. There's not really much that I want on Philly that they'd actually
Joel
give
Embiid.
us. I wish if like VJ had Edgecombe had like a terrible rookie season, I would have said him, obviously, because he has that upside. But he also like kind of actualized it until he just couldn't shoot from three. Like I think he was on that list of like worst 3-point shooters along with Jokic and Jamal in the playoffs this year, shooting like, I don't know, 20-some percent. All right, Dillon Brooks.
Yeah, this is a guy people have been floating around too because they want that dog in the Nuggets, and he would be the dog apparently. I don't know. I've never really liked Dillon Brooks, but I get would he'd bring like the toughness that you think the Nuggets are lacking.
This would be a money saving move. It's not even you're not even saving that much money. So I feel like Denver says no because if you're making that big of a shift, like culturally, like attitudinally, you'd want the guy to be making less than $20 million, which is what Dillon Brooks makes. But it's also a longer term salary dump because I think he only has maybe 2 years left, 1 year left on his current deal. So he's going to be expiring salary next season. So it would be a salary dump. I think Denver would consider asking for a pick, but I don't think that Phoenix, well, actually Phoenix did make that trade. Do they have any tradable picks right now? They don't because of Stepping. They have a 2033, but I don't think they're looking to trade their 2033 first. That's their only tradable pick right now, like first round pick. So Denver would ask for a pick, but Phoenix wouldn't be able to give it to them, I think.
True. Yeah, it's probably going to be a no from the Suns. It doesn't really make sense for them to add AG.
Yeah, they would. They're probably one of few teams that like probably doesn't benefit that much from AG. Because you'd look at teams that are like really close. Like say if the Spurs went out early this year, AG would probably be a perfect fit for them because they don't have enough forwards. And they've got the room in their cap. Or you'd look at a team like Charlotte that's like young and needs to get serious, and they would want somebody like AG to like help them make like a bigger leap.
All right, we
Phoenix,
really are gonna have to lightning round these last ones.
Yeah. All right. Shaedon Sharpe. I think Portland says no, but this answer would have been the complete opposite a year ago. I think Portland only says no because of the injury concerns, honestly. What about you? Do you?
I think they...
Like, would you be interested in Shaedon Sharpe for Denver?
I don't think so.
It's the exact type, like, archetype that I've been talking about that they need, though. Really athletic on-ball creator. Like, he's not efficient, but it just adds a different kind of texture to the offense.
I know every guy we're going to get is going to be a bad offensive player.
Well.
So, yeah. I don't know.
So you think maybe Denver also
upside?
Says no.
But he's younger. I mean, maybe Denver does say yes. And they kind of bet on him growing into some other player or like, just becoming more complete.
Shaedon isn't that young anymore, by the way.
Well, he's pretty young.
He's actually no, he's 22. Damn, he's so young.
Yeah, he's so young. That's what
I thought he was older. I feel like he's been
so
around
maybe
forever,
he could get a little bit better
into the league. Wow, he's 3 years younger than Christian. They were in the same draft class. All right, Malik Monk. This is a cost-saving move that would probably... Bless you. I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal, by the way. Gives us the spark off the bench.
I could think of worse, but he's probably not that good.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. Right. I just want to see real quick how many years he has left on that deal. Malik Monk. Oh, he's
Like
got 1 year
we'll
and
just
a
have the
player option,
same
so 2 years
problems.
left on his deal.
We'll have the same problems: inconsistent,
Offensive.
weak, and small, and
Yeah.
probably
And
won't
he's
hit a
such
shot
a
in the
bad
playoffs.
defender. Like, it's bad. Like, he's like
Yeah,
airhead on defense.
yeah.
All right, Keldon Johnson. This would be like this. This would be like what the Spurs try to do. Like Keldon and Denver asks for a pick. At least, or they just say no straight up. But like Spurs would probably
no.
also just not be interested unless they. I mean, they might be interested even if they win the title, because I think that they are a team that is like smart enough to recognize that there are ways to be more consistently improving. But
I just don't think they'll take on that much money with someone as old as AG at this point. It just doesn't fit their timeline.
Well, I don't know. Windows start earlier than people think, so maybe you just go for it. But all right, RJ Barrett. Is this a cost-saving move? You think Denver says no?
Yeah.
Why? He only has 1 year left on his deal.
I still think they want more. I mean, how good is he on defense these days?
Who cares? You're not going to find a defender. The guys that you would get that could be like AG level defender replacements around Jokic, you're not going to get for AG. You would get like these are kinds of guys we talked about being possibly within the realm of possibility if Denver was like Jamal and maybe a pick, right? Like the Scotty Barnes, the Evan Mobleys of the world. So you're not going to get, maybe you'll get like a perimeter defender, but you're not going to get someone that replaces AG's. You're just not going to get somebody that replaces AG's defense around Jokic. So the idea is you trade and like it's like a restructuring of the roster. Maybe this is a precursor to Jamal being out, although it's like, oh, you want RJ Barrett to be your second option? Probably not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you try to get maybe you try to get something back for Cam that is a little bit more defensively oriented, and then you have Peyton, whatever. But I don't know that this one is an obvious answer, but I do think the team that would be more interested is Denver. But I don't think Toronto says no. I think they'd think about it.
I don't know. I just don't know any about where the Raptors are. I feel like they'd rather have like Jamal than AG.
Yeah, maybe. Especially because they have Scotty Barnes. Like positionally, it's a little weird, but they also their whole team is positionally weird because Masai built his like all 6'9" wing team basically, and Jakob Poeltl, right? So maybe AG just fits right in with what they're trying to do with that. And positionally, maybe it doesn't matter as much. I mean, AG could say play power forward, and then you just have Scotty playing the 3, and just slide everybody up. I don't know. I don't think it's that different, like size wise, to swap out AG or swap out RJ for AG if you're the Raptors. All right. The next one was kind of weird because I was like, I feel like there should be players on Utah that Denver should be at least like moderately interested in because they've got so many like young reclamation projects. Let's see. Walker Kessler sign and trade because he's about to be an RFA. This would have to be a sign and trade. And Isaiah Collier. Vyacheslav, you have to start thinking about trades now because trades could happen on draft night. You don't want to wait till after the draft. They can happen after the draft. Obviously, a lot of trades happened after the draft, but also trades happen on draft night too. So,
the Collier and Kessler thing is only something I'd do if we were also trading Jamal.
Really? Why?
Because wouldn't you want Collier to kind of fill in?
I don't think Collier's ready to be like the guy on ball. That's part of the like reclamation project aspect of this.
Okay. Then I would say no. Then I wouldn't even consider this.
Okay. Collier's a pretty good defender. Maybe not. It is Utah. It's like he's got the tools and he's like strong. He's not fast. He's really strong. So that's like a difference than some of the other guards I had earlier on the list. But you think Denver for sure says no. I think both probably say no. I don't think that Utah has a positional need for AG, and I don't think they're trying to like leapfrog into being like a playoff team or playoff contender. Yeah, so I'll just say both for this one. And last Washington Wizards. It's hard because they don't have the salaries to match, so I just picked an interesting young player. Keyshawn George.
Yeah, I didn't have a picture of him because
he's the one with the poofy.
I didn't know you added him.
Is he Deontay's brother? They're related.
I don't know. What would you do? I don't know anything about him. He's so young, and I don't know anything about the Wizards. The Wizards are going to be pretty good next year. They got the first pick in the draft. Finally.
Maybe they're cousins.
Kessler or Vyacheslav wants Porzingis.
Ooh, that would be interesting, actually. A Porzingis sign and trade. I was only looking at players that are under contract for next year, with the exception of Walker Kessler.
80 and get AG Cam and Jonas for 80 and Keyshawn.
Oh, Keyshawn and Keontae are completely unrelated. They look like they could be cousins. Interesting.
Yeah.
So the Wizards probably say no, but right? I don't think they know who their best player is supposed to be, which is part of the problem. But they're like they got second in the draft this year, didn't they? Or did they win? Did they win the draft? Utah's second.
Who? Yeah, Wizards. The Wizards won the draft.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Yeah.
They'll probably take Darren Peterson or something.
Going through all these trades and players doesn't seem very exciting for Nuggets fans, I know, but like that's kind of where you are, where it's like you're not getting a better player back. Like we're going to be sending out the best player in a Jamal and AG trade no matter what, but it's like, do those people that you're getting back actually make up for some of the deficiencies? It's a tough question.
Without creating too many new holes.
Other problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's why it is starting to look like the Nuggets will probably just run it back with Jamal and AG, I feel like, and just trade Cam.
I think everything's on the table, as
okay.
said.
Okay, Josh.
I actually nothing would shock me, but I do think that they are considering exactly that. It's just really hard for me to imagine them paying $200 million in luxury tax, but we'll get into the nitty gritty of that next week. Yeah, that should be fun, and hopefully we're covering a Spurs Thunder series.
Yeah, that'll be fun for sure.
Yeah. And it will also mean that Minnesota got eliminated and we don't have to do the whole like, oh, is everybody like feeling better about Denver now that like Minnesota looks pretty good against these other good teams, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I gotta run.
Yeah, go ahead. If you made it this far, we appreciate you guys. If you like our content, please remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Follow us on socials, and always remember that winning is fun and losing sucks. I wonder if we can win a trade.
No.